Hi everyone, today I would like to have more of a spontaneous talking video. Not that my videos are usually quiet, but there is usually some kind of project being worked on. This time, however, it's gonna be more like a podcast with a speed paint in the back, and in case this format does interest you in a way, write about it in the comments down below. I would love to post videos more often, and maybe this more discussion focused format could be a nice way to fill in the gaps from time to time. Anyway, before we continue, I would like to quickly explain what I'm drawing here. I recently started playing D&D and this art is for one of my characters, Anne, who is a monk of the Rising Dragon. Design-wise, it is based on my online persona's design, as you might have noticed, but with some changes to make her look more suitable for her class and the medieval setting D&D has. As for today's topic, it is motivation and ideas. For as long as I've been taking art more or less seriously, I can't remember a single day when I couldn't come up with anything to draw. In fact, I'm on a completely different spectrum of art crisis. There are people who don't know what they want and they are having a hard time coming up with something to draw. And I belong to the group of people who have too many ideas and too many things to draw to the point that they simply don't have enough time for it. And today I would like to share my experience regarding the first group and how I never run out of ideas, so maybe this could help. If everything goes well in the future, I will make a continuation of this topic, but this time in terms of managing time and setting realistic expectations of what can and cannot be done in one day. Or a month, a week, doesn't matter. Realistic expectations. Now, there is no specific order to my suggestions that I'm about to share and yap about. They are all effective in its own way, I believe, and some people might use all of them while others only use one and they're happy with it. Whatever is the case for you, if you're curious about a specific section, you can always skip to it using the timestamps down below. The first suggestion is having your own story you are invested in, or maybe a pre-existing fandom you are invested in. I would like to put this point first, as frankly speaking, all of the other ones are connected to it in one way or another, at least in my case. I think it's important to say that no, having your own story to tell is definitely not the only reason one starts drawing, but it is a great way to make sure you keep going. Before I came up with my first story idea, Sword Soul, my artworks used to have random topics, partially inspired by something that interested me at the time or something that was forced upon me by art school. It was nice in the sense that I had the opportunity to try a lot of things, but it is hard to keep doing this long term. When you don't have a goal, a project you're striving towards, it's easier to say that you don't feel like it or you don't have any time for drawing. It feels less important. And when you do have a goal, maybe a big one at that, it naturally incentivizes you to keep going. And even all of that aside, it's just fun. When there are characters you can come back to, work on, and feel like they are evolving, you know there is progress. Whatever you are doing is important and you want to continue. I, for one, feel responsible for my socials, this channel in particular. I want people to get to know my characters. I want to share their stories. I want to make memes with them. Whatever I'm looking at, I most likely can connect it to at least one of the characters in one of my two main stories, Sword Soul, that has been frozen for the time being, or They Will Be Calling Me, that I'm actively working on. I kid you not, my watch later playlist on YouTube is more than 800 videos. Maybe not every single one of them is a potential video idea, but by this point most of them are. I can't imagine myself just turning back on all of this and never coming back. I might not have enough time for everything and it's frustrating in a way, but it's fine and I still keep going. In an ironic way, this video is being created right now because I can't finish the other one earlier and I want to upload something at least every 2 weeks if possible. The moral of this section is find or create something you genuinely care about, something you're comfortable with that will push you to draw and create even when you might not feel like it. You can certainly take breaks if you need to, or when there is something important coming up, like an exam of sorts, but even then, be your biggest fan and never get fully tired of what you love. Make it what restores your energy, if you will, not takes it away from you. Then I believe it might help with staying more productive and motivated. Number 2 is watch films and series. Sometimes I'm genuinely surprised how some people apparently don't watch anything on a regular basis. I mean, it's understandable that one would not have a lot of time to stare at their screen all day if they have work or still study or both. But at the very least, some occasional movie or a couple of episodes of your favorite show don't sound like a whole lot. Especially since right now we are specifically talking about artists who can technically draw and watch at the same time, but that's a conversation for another video. I feel like associations and inspirations from existing media is important in the sense that, however corny that may sound, we as artists can't really create something completely unheard of, but we can take things that we know and like and recycle them into something new and shiny. When you're fueled by tens and hundreds of different characters created by someone else, be it a movie, a cartoon, or a book, you might have it easier to come up with your own ideas. You recall one scene, then another character, then that pretty lighting from one show, and before you know it, there is an idea you can draw. I see this sort of advice being thrown quite a lot among people in the book community when they talk about writers, and I think it absolutely does apply to artists too. It's better to learn from someone else's mistakes than on your own, which is why some art discussion videos and or videos critically looking at some of the popular series might be a good thing to watch too. Just be wary that, at the end of the day, a lot of things are subjective and you should be critical of those critics, however ironic that sounds. As an example, I can mention a video about Stranger Things Season 5. I like the series overall, don't get me wrong, but there are definitely some weird parts one can notice thinking about the series for longer than a couple of seconds. What stood out to me though is the discussion of camera angles and their comparison in the first and the last seasons, and how it changed as Stranger Things progressed. I was so used to discussing art direction only for animated films that seeing this being discussed for a series with human actors felt very refreshing. Music. This section is directly connected to the previous one, as similarly to films and cartoons, music can be a great source of inspiration. I cannot tell you just how many of the scenes and plot lines in both of my stories have been inspired by songs. It got to a point that the moment I hear a song, I'm automatically trying to connect it to some event and or character. Not all of these connections should be literal. Sometimes the whole song fits perfectly, sometimes it just has the right vibe, and sometimes part of the lyrics fits while the other doesn't. Whatever the case is, you can use it. The genre of songs doesn't matter as well, listen to whatever you like, though I shall admit that the wider your range is, the better, depending on whether you use them to come up with a drawing idea or a story idea slash scene. If your whole playlist is just one specific genre, it's going to be hard to get variety, let's just say that. Although there are artists who always draw in the same way with similar scenarios, so maybe that's exactly what you need, in which case, good for you. In case anyone is curious, my personal playlist changes seasonally and has a wide range of songs. I listen to whatever catches my ear and might not always know the author. The latter I'm trying to work on, as it's quite awkward when people ask who I like listening to and there's nothing I can say as a reply. As honorable, more or less consistent participants on my playlist, I would like to mention The Score, The Imagine Dragons, One Direction, songs from My Little Pony, songs from Hazbin Hotel, and just generally a lot of cartoon songs of various genres. Being active on social media is another suggestion slash point I would like to mention. This section is going to be brief as I've partially touched upon it in the very first section, but being active on social media might actually be a good way for some people to stay motivated. The internet is a scary place, we all know that, but there are good people as well, those who like what you're doing and will support you with it. It's just a matter of time before more and more people who enjoy your style of content find you. The reason this matters in the context of motivation and ideas is that having active social media for some might be an alternative to what art school used to be for me. You feel this responsibility of doing something every now and then, and so you go ahead and actually work on things despite some shenanigans that might be going on in the background. I know that there are gonna be people who are scared of social media and this sort of responsibility would stress them out, so I would like to specify that even though it is good to drag yourself out of your comfort zone and force yourself into doing things sometimes, people are quite lazy creatures after all, but it doesn't mean you should overwork yourself or nag yourself about things that you didn't do or did badly as you may think. Something that is supposed to motivate you shouldn't become the reason you despise art instead. Because, as with most things in life, there should be a healthy balance that each person defines for themselves. The fifth and the last one is not being scared of what others think. It's a hard one, isn't it? This last section is not as directly linked to motivation per se, but at the same time it is, because people who are scared of strangers' opinions are less likely to engage in social media or show their work, and as the result of it, create less, potentially. I've mentioned this in the social media section, but taking everything people say about your art too close to heart, regardless of media, is not healthy. I suppose when it comes to myself, I grew up in a family whose members have always been really close to each other, and my confidence is very high, so it might be a little easier for me to speak, but it's still something that I could not mention. As an example of what kind of confidence I mean, I remember there was a funny story that happened to me back when I was in the first grade. It's quite telling, so stick with me for a moment. It was one of those events when parents can visit their kids during lessons, sit in the back and see how they're doing. And at some point, our teacher asked who wanted to tell a little poem. My mother still remembers how shocked she was when I raised my hand and went to the blackboard to answer. She knew I couldn't possibly know it because we hadn't learned any poems by heart. It was also in Kazakh, of all things, and I don't speak it, which makes the whole thing even more ridiculous. And yet, I still went there, and the teacher helped me, and together we told this poem regardless. In a sense, this is the kind of weird, bald confidence artists should have on the internet. There are so many people who just don't know what they are talking about, and they will be the first to leave their comment saying how weird you are. I've received those, and we've received them long after this video comes out. Sometimes they do make me question if I'm doing things wrong in some way or I should change something. On occasion, these thoughts might not be the worst, and you might find a way to improve because of them, but know when to stop. Most of the time, just ignore these people, or what I also sometimes do, mess with them. There is nothing funnier than acting stupid in front of people who are trying to sound like they are experts whose opinion should be taken seriously. As an example, when someone comments, "Oh, what is wrong with her eyes?" I might reply with, "I don't know, what is wrong with them?" It's not my job to be trying to explain your random feelings. It's kind of ridiculous. I don't know what they expect from me at this point. And what's better is when they either don't reply at all after my question, or they do reply, and it's some kind of a subjective comment at best, or silly at worst. I don't know how to explain this. I might pull up a couple of examples on the screen just so you know what I mean. And understanding this will not so much help with gaining motivation, but rather with not losing it. Please do not abandon your project just because some rando said they don't like it. Damn, even if people you know might have a different taste and thus not enjoy everything you are doing, that doesn't mean no one will. Keep creating for yourself so others can enjoy it. Those who don't care can leave, it's not their place to stay anyway. Wow, that whole script turned out much longer than I was expecting. I guess I am very passionate about this topic. It feels like I can keep going and going, but this video should come to an end at some point. And I have already mentioned all of the most important moments I could remember, so here we are, yay! Frankly speaking, another video was initially supposed to come out instead of this one, but I realized that it was taking too long and decided to record and release a simpler video in the meantime. Hopefully my yapping turned out to be interesting and or useful, and you've already subscribed to be notified of all upcoming videos. Thank you for watching, and see ya!